So after they told me that, I was pissed because I did all that work to get dilated, to push him out, and he was not even fully down into my pelvis, which is, you know, he's supposed to be down there after all those pushing. I was pushing for 3 hours and I was getting tired, I was getting frustrated, and throughout my entire experience when I started, you know, getting contractions, I've been having all these different nurses come in because the shifts, because I was there so long, I probably went through like 10 or 12 nurses, different nurses. And towards the end, I had this one nurse come in. She was kind of crappy, to be honest. She came in and had an attitude, and I was like, okay, I liked all the nurses up until this point. I started pushing for like 2 or 3 times, and she's like, yep, you're gonna have to have a C-section. And I looked at her and I gave her the most dirtiest look. I turned, because I was on my side, and I turned and I looked at her like, you don't tell a person in labor, especially someone that's been trying as much as she can to get this baby out, and you don't tell her, oh, you're gonna have to have a C-section. That's it. That's what she said. And I just, whoo, girl, they let me take a minute and talk it with Doug. And I was talking to him, I'm like, I'm not having a C-section. That's one thing that I am not going to have today. I'm not going to have a C-section. That's just out of the question. Throughout this whole entire labor, I was keeping in contact with my mom, my family, and then Doug was keeping in contact with his family and vice versa. Like he was a contact person. He told my mom like she's gonna have to have a C-section, the doctor said. So everyone was praying and praying that I would not have a C-section. And I told the doctor when she came in, so what is your decision? I was like, I'm not having a C-section. I'm gonna push this baby out, and that's it, because I prayed to God. He got me. He's gonna get this baby out, and that's it. I'm not having a C-section. It's not in the agenda. So she's like, okay, you're gonna have to push the hardest you ever can. After 3 hours of pushing, those last 2 hours, I was pushing literally nonstop. The 3 hours before that, I was pushing nonstop, but this is going to be a total of 5 hours of pushing this baby out. By 6 or 7 p.m., that is when I started pushing my hardest. He was near, like he literally was near, he was really in my pelvis. So his head was about to pop out any minute. And before, I didn't even know that, but before that happened, I pushed my last push, and I leaned back and I said, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I am tired. I'm exhausted. And the whole time I'm telling this, I'm literally sleeping. My eyes are closed, and I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm so fucking tired. I can't. You're gonna have to do a C-section. I was begging for a C-section after that. Like, I was exhausted. Just imagine pushing your biggest poop from your booty. Okay, just imagine that, because when you're pushing, you have to push like you're pushing out poop, not like you're pushing out from your vagina. Because I did have an epidural, and I did have to imagine me pooping. I know it sounds funny, but I had to imagine me pooping. So it was so extremely painful because of so much pressure happening down there, and I was exhausted on top of that. People coming in and out of, like, checking my cervix. Like, I'm so tired. I can't explain to you the amount of pain I was feeling, the amount of emotions. And I don't know what it is, but that last 2 pushes that I did, it was around maybe like 8 or 9 p.m. Those last 2 pushes, I don't know what came over me, but I prayed to God, like, God, you need to help me. I can't do this. I can't do this without you. You need to help me. So after I said that to God, I said that last prayer, and I pushed and pushed, and there's something that came over me, this strength that inside me that I didn't know I really had. And it just came out, and I didn't know I had that strength in me. And I think every woman experiences that, have this certain strength in you that makes you push out a baby. I did my last full push, and I pushed the hardest I've ever pushed. Like, my hands were on the bed. There's like these like handles. Holy shit, I thought I was about to break those things, okay? I was like, I couldn't even hold Doug's hand. I said, I can't hold your hand. And that was for his own safety, because I was about to like crush his hand. Like, that's how strong I was. So I was holding onto the pushed and pushed as hard as I could. Boom, I felt the baby come out. And I don't know how to explain to you. I don't know how to explain to you the feeling that I had when he came out. It was the most amazing experience I've ever felt emotionally. Right when he came out, I saw him and he looked at me, and it was the best feeling in the entire world, because I just knew, you know, this baby would change my life. And oh my gosh, why am I crying? It was the best feeling in the entire world. And I literally looked at him and I said, oh my gosh, you're my boy, you're my rainbow. He truly is a miracle. And I put him on my chest and I held him. I was screaming, crying, because I was so happy that God was able to bless me with this miracle. That was the best part. Nothing else mattered at that point. Nothing mattered that I was so far away from my family, even though I wanted to be with them. Nothing mattered. I looked at him and I felt so much joy. And I can't explain the feeling. I think it was just more emotional for me and special for me, because I lost my first child. You know, if you don't know what I've been through, I did go through a miscarriage before this. And my video is here on YouTube if you wanted to see it. But it was, I think that's why it's so special, because I finally have my rainbow. I have the love of my life. And when you go through a child loss, I think you just lose a part of yourself that you can never get back. And it's a part of yourself that you wish that you could witness in front of you. You know, you wonder about that child all the time. I wonder about her all the time. I wonder how she would look like. I wonder what she would be like. I wonder what that pregnancy would be experience. Like, I wonder what the experience would be like. But through this experience with Jeremias, he truly is my rainbow. He means everything to me, and I'm glad that I waited for God's timing. I'm glad that I let go of everything and I just surrendered to God. But afterwards, you know, a few seconds I had on my chest, they said, okay, we need to grab him because he's not crying. He should be crying, because we didn't really hear him cry. He just looked at me and he went on my chest, and there was liquid inside of his lungs. So what had happened was, oh, by the way, before I get into that, when he was coming out, they did have to cut me. So his head was a little bit big. And when I was pushing, he said, yeah, your vagina is a little small, so we do need to cut it. Is that okay? And I'm like, do what you need to do. I need to get this baby out. So they did have to cut me a little bit. And then they sewed me up when he was on my chest. They had him in this incubator in the room, and they were trying to get the liquid out of his lungs because he couldn't breathe properly. And I think I was so worried. I was like looking to see if he was okay. Doug was with him. He said, do you want me to stay with you or go to the baby? I'm fine, just go to the baby. So he was checking up on baby. I was laying there. They were stitching me up down there, getting all the liquid out. You know, they were massaging my uterus to get all the blood out because you don't want infection. So they were doing all that. And also no, I never ate for over a day. So nothing was in my, I was so hungry. They had to take him to the nursery and they had to get him on a machine to breathe. And they did have to monitor his heart, everything, his vitals and everything like that. So I was stuck in the room for maybe about an hour after I gave birth. Everyone was cleaning up the room. I was laying there just resting. I took out my catheter, which helped me pee, because when you have an epidural, they have to put a catheter that you can pee because you can't walk or feel anything. Took out my epidural. Like, none of this hurt at all. They were just taking everything out because I honestly didn't feel anything. After birth, you're just like, whatever. And they did have me try and stand. They said, do you want to try and stand just to get moving? Because it is important to get moving after you give birth, so everything flows and you're to see if you're okay. So they did have me stand up, go to the bathroom. And at first when I sat down to go to the bathroom, it's like I didn't know how to pee. Like, I was trying to push. I didn't know if I was pushing to pee, and I'm like sitting there for like 5 minutes and like, okay, I don't know if I peed or not. After I went to the bathroom, they had me sit down. They ordered me food because I was so hungry. And they gave me my food. And right when I got my food, I didn't notice that my hands were covered in blood. A little bit of the baby's poop was on me because he did poop inside me, which was also something that they had to test him for to see if he was okay. Yeah, I was eating my food with poop on my hand and blood on my hand. So mom life. Oh yeah. So it was really disgusting, but I was so exhausted and tired. I didn't get the nurse came in, and I actually was FaceTiming my mom about everything. And the nurse came in, so I hung out with my mom and we went to the nursery to see the baby. And Jeremias was hooked up to machines, and they wheeled me in. I couldn't walk still. I could walk, but I was very wobbly. So they had me, you know, wheeled me into the nursery, and it was quite far from our room, so it was kind of frustrating. So while I was going to the nursery, they were moving my stuff to the postpartum room to recover. So I was in the nursery. Doug was with him the whole entire time, and he was hooked up to all these machines. And let me just tell you, it was the hardest thing to see your baby connect to machines. It was the hardest thing I had to see. And it was sad because I couldn't hold him. I couldn't do skin to skin. I couldn't even breastfeed him. But I was probably there for about maybe an hour or two, and they said, do you want to try and breastfeed? Because I know you really want to breastfeed. I'm like, yes. So we did skin to skin, and then I did breastfeed him a little bit. And let me just tell you, the first time this baby was on my boob, it was the weirdest feeling I've ever felt. Like, it was just weird. Like, it wasn't sore at all. It was weird. The nurses at my hospital were so helpful. Like, they were top notch. I loved every single nurse. Like, the nurse that was the last nurse that I told you about that was horrible, she turned out to be the best one there. She helped me through all of my contractions. She helped me actually convince me to push out the baby. Like, her and Doug were, and a couple of the other nurses were cheering me on, because I literally, and when I finally pushed out the baby, there's probably about 5 nurses in there because I needed the motivation. They even asked me, do you want a mirror to see down there? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see down there. The doctor came in when she, you know, she had to catch the baby. But when she came in her glasses, I could see my vagina, and let me just say, whew, it wasn't, I'm sorry, but your vagina doesn't look pretty, okay? It was huge. It was the size of my head, literally. Amazing to see, but it was really gross. But it made me push, along with the other nurses that were cheering me on, like, come on, Asher, let's do it, push, you need to push harder. So we were actually there at the hospital for an entire week because Jeremias' blood sugar was very low. And when it's very low, that can cause a lot of brain function. Every day, you know, I went back and forth to the nursery. I was never in the recovery room. When the 48 hours were up that I was required to stay in the hospital, they had me and Doug moved to the nursery. We stayed in there for, I think, 3-4 more days. It was the worst ever because I wanted to go home, and you know, the cats were not knowing where we were. They were like stressed out. I wanted to go home because I was sore, I was tired, my feet were swollen, and they were the size of like Mount Everest. So hard for me to breastfeed because he had to be bottle fed. I didn't have my milk in. And so I think that was the most stressful part, and my milk wasn't coming in because A, I was stressed out, 2, I couldn't do skin to skin as much, 3, I couldn't breastfeed him, so I can't get my milk supply in. And throughout that period, they did have me pump at the hospital using the Medela pump. And I mean, it was helping a little bit, but honestly, I was heartbroken because he wouldn't take my breast. I was really pissed because this is not the journey that I wanted. I was in a way robbed of a lot of moments with my baby where I just wanted to do skin to skin in our room. I wanted to hold him long enough. I wanted to hold my baby for at least 2 hours after he was born. I couldn't do that. The next day after my delivery, so January 5th, which is his due date, I went into the nursery and he was crying and fussing because we weren't there and he just wanted mommy. I said, "Hi, Jeremias." And right when I said that, he looked at me and stopped crying. I think that was the best feeling in the entire world, is knowing that your baby stops crying when he hears you or smells you. So I think that was the most best feeling in the world, is knowing that I was wanted. So he had all these marks of them pricking his feet to get his blood, to test his blood sugar. And let me just tell you, that was the hardest thing to see. Is I just, like, one of the days I just broke down crying because I was watching them get all these tests done, and like, they have to do this, so it's not like they're torturing him. But he was hooked up to the machine, he was hooked up to an IVs, he had this thing on his arm to keep it straight, and I was just looking, I broke down. And the nurse was trying to comfort me, like, "I know this is hard, but please, you're almost there. Just keep on holding on." So we went home the 6th or 7th day that we were there, and let me just tell you the relief that I had. Yeah, we went home. I had to get, they had to prescribe me donor milk because my milk wasn't coming in. Usually it would come in, but with all everything going on, my milk supply was very low, like to the point where I couldn't feed him. But I still did fed him through breast, even though nothing was coming out. The more your baby's on your boob, the more milk that comes in. Yeah, it's been a great experience, and I would not trade it for the world. It's my birth story. I am actually going to let Doug tell you his experience on labor, on being a dad. I'll give you like his experience through that. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I'm going to turn it to